Turbo, Extreme, Standard. I'm gonna put this in the standard. System memory multiplier. This gives you your memory multiplier. The higher you go, the more obviously frequency on your memory. Also, the higher you put your base clock, the higher the memory will go. The timings on the memory, you can also adjust those for better stability if you go even higher on the CPU. This should be fine for now though, we're not going as high. And your voltages. We just did a couple notches up here on the V-core and on the QPI VTT voltage, and also put our DRAM, the memory modules voltage at 1.64. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this screen, go save and exit. It'll ask me if I want to save. I press Y, yes. And now the CPU will reboot, and it'll come with the new frequency that we just set. It was the 150 times 20, so that'll give us 3.0 gigahertz on the frequency. As soon as we boot into Windows, we want to see if our processor is stable. And to check your stability, there is different programs you can use. I use the Intel burn test, which uses some, it's like extremely burning in your CPU, putting a lot of work onto it. So basically that way you can test if it's stable or not. If it freezes up or if you get a blue screen of death, that means your voltage is not high enough. On the V-core, it's most of the time it will be your V-core that you need to top the put the voltage up a little bit higher, and then you will go and try to test your stability again. So this is kind of a lot of work. Well, not a lot of work, it's a lot of waiting, because you need to wait till your system reboots, and then you need to test it for stability for at least, 20-30 minutes. And now I have some of these programs in here actually. One of them is called, like I was saying, the Intel Burn Test version 2. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, basically you'll leave it on 5 times to run. This is your available memory in here. Leave it in standard and bring up two of the instances, and then you just go start. See, and then on my other screen I'll show you, I have a little CPU meter here. See if I can zoom in a little. Well, that's pretty blurry. Okay, this shows you the frequency. This is like a gadget, one of those Windows gadgets. I should probably open up a little bit something more professional. The CPU-Z. You can actually download this for free. Will tell you everything you need about your CPU and your memory. Okay, here the core voltage. It tells you your core voltage, your revision of your CPU, your batch number, your speed, the frequency, the multiplier. We set everything in the BIOS, and just tells you just to double check on here. You can also go to your memory setting here. It'll tell you how much you got, what's your frequency on there, and you just basically your hardware information here that this program does tell you. So it's pretty nice. This is pretty neat. But now we're running the we're running the tests here, and we already passed our first time to run, and this will do 5 times. I'm gonna stop it for now. Like I said, this will test your CPU to its max, and the max temperatures. If you wanted to download one of these things here, it actually shows you your temperature as well, so that's nice. For the i7s, I would not recommend going over like 90 degrees Celsius. under load. If you go over 90 while you're testing your stability, I would just recommend doing a little bit lower voltage and lower clock, because I mean over 90 24/7 you don't want to be at those temperatures. I believe the TJ max for the i7s is like 110, I think. After 100, they'll actually start, the chips will start throttling, which means they'll start slowing down on their own to prevent from burning. So anywhere from 60 to 75ish if you're doing under load. On I would recommend those kind of temperatures are fine. And we're on air too. I personally run the i7 on air cooler, and I run at the 4.0 gigahertz frequency, and I don't get past, well, if I go test this, the torture test, if I run it for a couple minutes or a couple hours, the temperatures stay at about 82 degrees Celsius. So it's not perfect, but I also have a case that's enclosed in like a wooden hole in my desk, so that's really not good for it, but there's nothing else I can do about that. So that's basically it, guys. Now if we want to go even higher, we would go back to our bias and increase your clock, your base clock frequency, but also with that, make sure you have in mind that you need to increase your voltage accordingly. So the voltage, you don't want to go that little too much on the voltage. You want to stay in between 1.25 and you don't want to go over 1.45. Okay, if you go anywhere over that, you definitely want to have at least water cooling set up, and really just a good chip. And I say good chip because not all the chips are the same. You might have a friend that clocks his at 3.9 and he runs at 1.31 voltage, and you will never get that because you have a different chips. So you might have to bump your voltage up to, I don't know, 1.35 to run that. That's perfectly normal, so don't be disappointed if you can't get the same clocks as others. And if you go research on the internet, people will tell you that they have this and that. Just don't try to match that. You have a completely different chip, and it depends. If you have a good one, you might do really low voltage, which will yield into low temperatures, and you might do a nice frequency. I personally, my settings are 4 gigahertz on the frequency, and my V-core voltage is at 1.36, which is okay, but I definitely need an aftermarket cooler for that. If I had the stock one, I'm not sure what would happen. Probably the temperatures would probably go through the roof, and it would just be really, really loud. Now, if you guys have any questions, please ask. I'll see if I can answer those. Also, I can show you some pictures or some videos of my system, how I have it set up, and my CPU cooler that I have. It's the ProLimatek Mega Halems Mega Shadow. It's a pretty good cooler, I think. It's it's one of the better ones that you wanna see. You don't want to cheap out on the CPU cooler, because if you want to really get the most out of your CPU, you want to have good temperatures. Now, I also lapped my CPU, which I don't really want to get into. That's a little bit more advanced technique of keeping the temperatures down. Basically, what you do is you buy series of sandpapers and sanding papers, and you sand down the default your stock heatsink on the CPU, on the chip itself, on the actual unit, and you sand it down to all the way to the copper base, and that will actually make a better contact with the heatsink and with the cooler. But that's a little bit more advanced, like I said. I can make a maybe like an informative video about that later. But for now, this is the basic steps for your Core i7 overclocks. And like I said, if you have any questions, please ask. And yeah, that's about it. Luke out.